Well, I'm super disappointed. Obviously, I would be disappointed with the decision today. I mean, I think the fight for private property rights, the fight for the legacy of the Alamo Defenders, all went down today. And the biggest thing for me, and it's, they kept making it about the money, and it has nothing to do with the money for me. 17 million, whatever they were saying. I mean, they asked me 4 years ago to come up with a number, and me and my wife came up with 15 million, and they came up with 3 million or 2 million, and we thought, well, we'll have a negotiation one of these days and try to meet in the middle, try to meet around 8 or 9 million, whatever it was, to pay for my property that sits right in front of the Alamo. Try to find property in front of the Alamo these days. There isn't any. There isn't any, and I've got the last piece, and they want to steal it, and the city is decided that they want to proceed with the eminent domain and condemn my property and take it from me without ever even one negotiation. I didn't have one negotiation with the state. I asked them at the 11th hour. I confess. I mean, on Monday we emailed the city attorney in the state, asked them for a meeting to discuss this and maybe table this for a week or two so we could have a meeting. They refused, like they've refused the whole time for 6 years. They've never wanted to sit down with me and talk to me, and it's very, very disappointing.
The city says that they are planning on negotiating. They made that pretty clear. Do you not have faith in that?
I have no faith in that negotiation because eminent domain in and of itself is a negotiation. It's called a negotiation, and all that is that they're going to offer me a lowball number like they have been for 6 years, and then they're going to offer me, by statute, 30 days later, another lowball number, which could be the same number 30 days later, and I'm not going to take either one of those, and I don't even have to respond to those. We don't even have to talk to each other. That's and that's called a negotiation in eminent domain law. So when they say negotiation, we all think, oh, we're all going to sit down and talk and have a negotiation. There's no picking up the phone and talking. A negotiation in eminent domain law is a first offer for whatever they want to offer, probably minimum $2 million maybe for the appraised value of my building, of which I have a note on. I have to go pay at the bank. And then 30 days later, a second offer, which could be for the very same amount. And then after that, a hearing, and then boom. I mean, in 66 days from today, they can be bulldozing my building and call that a negotiation. I don't call that a negotiation. Basically, they want to negotiate with me, but they wanted a loaded gun to do it. They don't want to negotiate with me like I asked them to on Monday in a room with free market capitalism, and let's talk about a number, and let's be fair to a Mexican-American businessman. They want to negotiate with the permission of the city council with a loaded gun pointed to my head and say, take this. That's what they call a negotiation.
So what number are you willing to consider? You said these lowball numbers.
My wife and I talked about it many times over a drink, over dinner, or whatever, and we always felt like if we could get around, $7 or $8 million, that would be enough to survive the rest of our lives. We thought it would be fair for our property. Our kids would be proud of us. Our kids would have a heritage. We're walking away from generational wealth. We're walking away from a Riverwalk property, an Alamo property that would be in our family for generations. I mean, my kids could run it. Their kids could run it. My great-grandkids could run it, or they could lease it to Starbucks. They could do whatever they wanted to with it. And we're walking away from a generational wealth. Then that's worth more than today's value. That's worth more than $2 or $3 million on the appraisal. That's worth future money, and they were obviously unwilling to pay that. Why? It's a $600 million project. The private foundation has $60 million in the bank. Why are they not wanting to give me what I would consider a fair value for it? Because I'm a Mexican-American businessman, and they don't have to. They're the government. They can do whatever they want to. They can run me over. They can steamroll me like they did today. So I'm upset that the foundation didn't sit down with me, that the Alamo Trust did not sit down with me and negotiate this prior to just running to the city council and ask them to steal it from me.
When did you buy the property? What year?
I've owned the property for about 6 or 7 years.
And how much did you pay for the property then?
About $1 million.
And what would you say your business is valued at right now?
Well, I mean, that's debatable.
I heard you shouted out in the meeting that you'd be willing to start at $8 now.
$8 million, yeah.
Do you think is that still your position as you go into negotiation with the city now?
Well, okay, again, you say negotiation with the city. I mean, I don't think there's going to be a negotiation with the city. I think there's going to be an eminent domain action. They're going to offer me low ball, and then 30 days later, I'm going to get another low ball, and 70 days after it's all started, they'll be bulldozing my building down. That's how eminent domain works.
You don't feel like this will be a fair process ever?
It's fair if you're an eminent domain attorney. I mean, it's fair if you want to try to steal somebody's property without negotiating with them in the United States of America with using free capitalism. It's fair if you are a government that can hide behind another government and steal somebody's property. Yeah, that's fair for them. But is it fair for me? Is it fair for the free market? No, it's not fair. Will they sit down with me prior to the first letter and prior to the first offer? You know, they insinuate that they might, right? But they've also insinuated for 6 years that they were going to sit down with me and have a negotiation with me, and that's never happened. Even though you hear that they tried their hardest to negotiate with me, they tried their best to make a deal with me. They never tried. They never did anything. They said their door's open. Well, why am I going to you? I don't have a for sale sign on my property. I'm not going to you begging you to buy my property. I told them just leave me alone and let me run my property. I'll keep my property and keep doing what I do. I love working downtown San Antonio. So I'm supposed to go to you and beg you for money? It's my property. If you want it, you're supposed to come to me and say, hey, we want your property. We understand that $2 million is too low, but 17 is way too high. Let's have a negotiation. Let's have a proper negotiation. Never did that. Straight to city council, straight to try to steal my property through eminent domain, and they succeeded. So I'm very disappointed.
So now there's a ticking clock, basically, between now and you potentially ultimately losing the property. What are your actions over the next few weeks or next couple of months going to be?
I'm going to have to get with my attorney and start figuring out what we do in an eminent domain process. I've never been in an eminent domain before, so it'll all be new to me. In the meantime, I'm not lying about John Quinones and a Hollywood producer and a couple of other people wanting to pick this story up. This is, on its face, number one, taking the government coming in to the Alamo and taking private property off the grounds of the Alamo. And she's right. My property is right outside the old wall. It would be right where the assault happened by the Mexican troops. I mean, it's hallowed ground. It's battlefield of the Alamo. And for the government to come in and steal it from me and take it from me, that's the headline news. That's the headline news. But beyond that is the angle of why didn't they negotiate with me? Why didn't the city ever sit down with me and have an honest dialogue with me? They say because I didn't go to them. Well, I didn't have a for sale sign on my building. I didn't go to them because my building was not for sale. They were supposed to come to me and say, let's sit down and talk about it. But they had one thing that I don't have. You know, the power of eminent domain.
So you say there haven't been any conversations, but I mean, there have been offers exchanged. You said, though, that you've never been to the negotiating table. So how did those conversations take place? Was it via email or in what
They emailed two offers, the two last offers through Kate Rogers were emailed to me. Neither one of them was on a Trek real estate form. Both of them were on the back, what my attorney would say, on the back of a cocktail napkin. We will offer you X. It was not a counterable document like you would if you ever bought a house. You would say, okay, look, you offer 200,000, you scrape it off and say, no, I want 210, and you go back and forth with a honest negotiation like that. I never received any forms like that from them.
When you walked in this morning, what vote were you anticipating council to take, and were you also anticipating more people to speak in favor of your business? I mean, it seemed like everyone who got up there spoke in favor of my business.
Yeah, well, I mean, they're a large organization. They're a government organization. They've got a foundation behind them. They've got all these people behind them, and so they're all ready to do this. I found out about it a week ago. I mean, how am I going to mobilize, my side of the story? You get 3 minutes to talk and defend yourself, and that my defense was, what do I do? I mean, I had no idea this was coming. They didn't tell me I was going to get eminent domain. They never sat down with me and said, hey, this is our last offer, or you're going to get an eminent domain, so be prepared for it. They never made an offer. They never made a last offer. We never had a conversation like that. So I woke up in the morning like y'all did and read it in the paper, and so I had, a week to try to figure out what to do. I could not mobilize what they could mobilize in a week. I'm a small independent business person. I mean, I'm going to work right now. I don't know about, they're not. I'm going to work right now. So I don't have time to mobilize people.
What are your thoughts on the museum and the visitor center itself? Would you
I've always been I cannot wait for the museum to open. I've always been a big proponent of what's going on with the museum. Can't wait to see the Phil Collins collection. I mean, it's going to be fabulous. It's going to be fabulous for the city. It's going to be a moneymaker for the state. I mean, I've been for it from day one. And I've never wanted to be in their way. I've just been waiting for them to have an honest negotiation with me so I could sell my property to them. But never happened.
There have been groups that have come up against the Alamo plan. I'm thinking of this as Texas Freedom Force trying to stop the cenotaph. Have any of these conservative groups come up and offered support or said, you know, they would come to these meetings or be on your side?
No, I've never talked to them.
When we think about kind of what's next, let's say we look further than this negotiation that's gonna play out, but you've spoken a lot about your age, kind of the challenges of opening another business. What are you thinking is coming next for this? Will you open your doors somewhere else in the city? Is that feasible?
Open my doors what?
Somewhere else in the city?
Oh, somewhere. Well, open another business? Is that what you're saying?
Or will you, open
Move the
Moses
bar.
Roses?
Oh, no. Moses Roses will die on the grounds of the Alamo, like maybe he should have done, a lot of people think. That's what's going to happen there. I hope, I hope that the people who voted to kill Moses Rose and bury him there will step around his gravesite because the blood is on their hands. And, long live private property rights, but, they just took a big blow today. No, I'm going to go find a job is what I'm going to go do. I mean, I have to. I've got a kid in college.